Hello and welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. We're on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening to us on iTunes right now, go ahead and leave a 5-star review. Guys, I'm doing stand-up in New Jersey next Friday, October 16th. I'll be with comedians of the Compound. We will be a whole bunch of us. The whole gang will be there. We're doing a stadium show in Lakewood, New Jersey. That'll be the Blue Claw Stadium next Saturday, October 16th. For tickets, go to compoundcomedy.com. After that, on November 6th, I'll be headlining Tiff's Ale House, aka the Dojo of Comedy. November 6th, that's in Morris Plains, New Jersey. So check that out. Booking new shows all the time. Working on something now in possibly Savannah, Georgia. So just, sit tight. If I haven't gotten to your city yet, I'm trying. I had canceled those dates in Santa Monica because of the vaccine mandates. So I might try for something in Orange County. We'll see. A quick shout out to our sponsors, Cushy Dreams. You know them, you love them. They're my go-to for all things CBD related. Join the men and women who are sick of vapes and gummies and want to smoke their CBD. I like them because it's calmed down my anxiety big time over the last year and a half. I like them because they have different indica sativa blends like Relax, Create, Dream, Hustle, Peace. So if you want to be a little more up, a little bit more down, Cushy Dreams has your back. Grown here in the U.S., legal in all 50 states, ships right to you. I'm just a big fan of their stuff, and it's helped me with my anxiety big time. So go to cushydreams.com, K-U-S-H-Y dreams.com, and at the checkout, use promo code CMP to get 20% off your purchase. I think free shipping as well. And another new sponsor. Oh, my God. What is happening here? And this one is pretty exciting. Yeah, we all know dating apps are terrible. They're superficial. You're swiping at faces. Who knows if you're meeting somebody that genuinely matches with your values and things that are important to you. Sure, you could sort of, meet somebody who changes over time, but how do you really? You'd rather just know right off the bat. If you're conservative, things probably aren't going to work out with someone who's a total lefty. Same with religion, lifestyle, how to raise your children, and other core values. Drom is a new free values-based dating app. You pick your deal breakers and deal makers. There's no experts, no match percentages. You don't have to addictively check the app. Also, Drom is video only for more human interactions. So go to Drom.Date/CMP in your phone's browser, click the iOS or Google button to install, and use the invite code CMP to sign up. And if you're already matched up, if you already found the love of your life, well, go ahead, tell your sad single friends. Just tell your... Maybe if your friend is hanging on by a thread and they want to line up a new person. No, I'm just kidding. So go to Drom.Date/CMP. Designed to meet your perfect match. It's free to use. Why, you have nothing to lose. Why not just go for it? Okay, guys, I'm so excited to have this guy on the pod today. You may, if you're a Friday Night Tights fan, you could have seen him on that show. He is the founder of Film Threat magazine. He's also an author of many books, including the Ultimate Film Festival Survival Guide. Welcome to the show, Mr. Chris Gore. Hello.
It's great to finally meet you. I've watched Friday Night Tights. We've crossed paths. Here we are, finally on a show together.
We are. Oh my God. Isn't it funny? All my friends are on the internet. It's a strange world that we live in now.
Well, I'm bummed that you're not coming to Santa Monica. I had planned to go out and see that show, and I think it was like the 23rd. But are there other comedy clubs like in the horrible state in which I currently live? There's Ice House right in Pasadena. I think they have a different health department, and I know that that's where Joe Rogan used to record his podcast, was at the Ice House.
Ooh, I could go and just try to breathe in some Joe Rogan vibes. All right. I'll check that out.
Yeah, Pasadena is a little different. That's where I live, which is still part of LA County, but they have their own health department. So they play the rules a little bit differently. But I will say it is sort of depressing to live in this state that seems to be spiraling, further and further down. It's just
why haven't you left? You're the only one of the few ones that are still there.
I'm one of the few that hasn't. I mean, I've had so many friends. They've moved to Austin. They've moved to Arizona. They moved to Colorado. I mean, they're just getting out of the state, and it's really, I mean, it's really sad. I've seen this city I fell in love with. I moved here in 1989, sort of, was a kid like in the 90s here and loved it. Loved like the opportunity that California presented. And now
Where are you from originally? Are you from
Detroit.
there? Okay, Detroit. Okay.
So I have a highly tuned bullshit detector.
Mm.
So when you come here from there, you realize like, oh, wow, the highest percentage of assholes in the United States live in this area of Los Angeles. That's pretty much.
Why is that?
Because I think people are attracted here for the wrong reasons, right? It's the entertainment industry, as you know. And so people are here to pursue that dream. And it just sort of, and so that attracts a lot of, I would describe them as climbers.
Ugh, yes. Well, New York too, but LA has a different breed, and they are more, I don't know, there's superficial people in both cities, but it's a little, I guess it's different in LA. I've only been out there once.
Really? Well, I hope you make it to Ice House. I mean, that's a great, my buddy Yoshi Obayashi has performed there. I've seen him there and he's great. But yeah, no, it's kind of like the world falling around us. And it's kind of sad to see it happen. But I just to see like, I mean, the rampant homeless problem, the like, just like what like so many unaddressed issues. It sucks. It sucks because there's so many things that are cool about LA. It's just all kinds of food, all kinds of just like things to do, events, the Hollywood Bowl, just like also comedy. I mean, you had on, God, and I forget her name. She has spinal bifida.
Lila Hart.
She was great. What a great interview. And I just saw like the pain in her and I'm thinking like, oh my God, I feel that. Like, this is not the city I loved is dying right before my eyes.
Yeah, she was on Elijah Schaefer and Sydney Watson's show You Are Here. It's their new show on the Blaze, and they had her on because I love connecting people because Lila opened for me at my shows down in Dallas at Hyenas, and they came to watch, and then that's how they connected to her and met her, and then they had her on their show, and same thing, like she went on their show, she was like crying like almost the whole episode over how upset she was to have to, she was grieving the loss of the city that she loves.
I feel that. I hope I don't cry on your show, but like I think what was really interesting was seeing how uncomfortable it made like Sydney and Elijah. I thought that was kind of, they were just starting to break down and I felt for her. I'm like, oh my God, everything she was saying, like, friends and just like how she couldn't even like, walk down the street without being accosted. Right. Like, so I feel that pain for sure. And so I don't know. I'm like a last holdout as people continue to exit the state. It's frightening.
Do you feel like you would need to stay and fight? Like you could move if you wanted to, but.
Well, I feel the problem is that people here are too weak-willed and too willing to just fall in line. I went and saw a screening of the new James Bond movie.
What did you think?
I really enjoyed it. I know that like the folks at FNT are going to nitpick and have problems with it. It's a classic Bond movie. He's a badass. I mean, there are some issues. The ending is going to be controversial, though. I don't want to get into that, but like,
does he transition?
No, he does
at
not.
The end?
Does not. But there is a character that is 007 and there's a story reason for it. But I mean, Bond has always had female rivals in all the movies. And I thought it was really well done. It was a good sort of send off to the Daniel Craig era. But what was weird about going to that screening was one, you had to be vaccinated, right? But wait, I got vaccinated right at the beginning.
Oops, sorry to vax shame you.
Feel free. I don't care. I also don't care that people didn't get vaccinated. I don't vax shame. But look, I'm at my age. I decided to get vaccinated. I'm older than Gary Beekler, just so you know.
I don't believe it. Where do you put it, Chris?
Well, alcohol acts as a natural preservative, so it gets
okay.
They never tell you that.
Do you dip yourself in pickle brine every night?
I feel like it, but I got vaccinated back in February. It was my choice. I'm of a certain age, right? Like I have grown children. I'm not going to have any more kids. So I'm done like in that. And I'm like, all right, I could be like, also like I had a horrible flu years ago where I have 80% lung capacity. Wow. So yeah, I got the flu shot every year. Right. But otherwise I'm in great health. I decided I got the vaccine and I thought, you get the vaccine, and look, you can see a montage. Biden, everybody saying, if you get the vaccine, you can take the mask off. And that's what I wanted. Get back to normal. So I got the vaccine. And then they lied. And then June 15th was supposed to be masks off. Gavin Newsom, masks off, June 15th. California's going to open again. Then they went back on that. Less than a month later, they went back on that. And I kind of feel like I've been dating a crazy girlfriend called the US government.
Yes, I have seen those, like, not a meme necessarily, but it's a picture like where they were like, how to know you're in an abusive relationship, and they crossed that relationship and just wrote like government, and all the same things still applied.
That was the last lie, and I feel like fuck it. I'm done. I'm like, and I've been I listened to your interview on Megyn Kelly, which I thought was great.
Oh, thanks. I was nervous as hell for that. I was just like, it's Megyn Kelly.
It might be the least funny interview you've done. You're very funny always.
I was trying not to say like dick and balls. It's her show.
But you were so, like, you really bared your soul there. And what I really enjoyed about that interview is that you talked about your personal journey, like how you got to where you are now and like who you were. And it was like, and I'm listening to it and I'm going like, wow, like 2018 is where I kind of began to question more deeply. And so I'm not saying we had the same journey, but it's similar, where I began to just like, hey, a lot of this stuff is BS. And I've always been a guy that's like question authority. I mean, I'm Gen X, fuck you, do it. No one hires me to do, I have been hired by companies to do things, but if, like Film Threat, I'm a college dropout. I dropped out of college. I started Film Threat because I was sick of paying too much money for classes and books, and my parents arguing about who was going to pay for college. So I started Film Threat. And then I sold the magazine to Larry Flint in the early 90s.
Wow, that's cool.
Then no one hired me to write a book. I decided to write a book. I wrote a book because I was tired of going to film festivals and seeing talented filmmakers get sort of overrun by the filmmakers who had publicists and managers and agents. And I'm like, but this filmmaker made a better movie. So I wrote it like a handbook for I even have it like right here. You can get it used on Amazon.
That's so badass. That's a solid book.
4 editions of that book. And then it was like, I was like, hey,
that's like a beach read.
It's that, yeah, 2 beaches, but then I've made films in the past too. And, I've been on television, produced TV, and I did a movie called My Big Fat Independent Movie, which is, you can also probably get used on Amazon.
Oh yes. And, it looks like, you modeled after, did you model after my Big Fat Greek Wedding?
Yeah, that, and then also like every independent film out there. And it's Paget Brewster's in it, Bob Odenkirk, who did a favor for me to be in it. And I'm working on 2 documentaries as we speak. One we're kind of holding. So I've had this like weird career that's like, I like to tell my friends, just diversify your career portfolio and do 9 different things. And as yourself, I'm sure you relate to that. Like,
oh, absolutely. And it's weird because I have a few trolls. It's like, but I have these trolls that are other comedians, and it's so strange because, like, not to toot my own horn, but I have like a much bigger following than them. Like Twitter, all social media, it's like no contest. It's probably like double or triple what these guys have, but they're older than me. They're like 15 plus years older than me. And they like troll me in this weird way, like, oh, well, what clubs is she performing at in New York City? And they almost are like, oh, like they boil it down to, and this one guy in particular, like, I know that he feels insecure about, I don't know, his age or his criminal record or like whatever, his trajectory. And he kind of has this like comedy purist hubris of like, oh, she's not, like he kind of would boil it down to like, well, what stages is she getting up at in New York City? Like, that's all that matters. And I'm like, maybe that's what mattered in the 80s, the 90s. Okay. But like, who's to say what's the measure of a person's talents? Like, who's to say you should only be on stage, or you should only be doing podcasts, or how about a mixture of both, or how about whatever makes you happy? And I've never judged anybody's like, right, it's 2021, like, and especially if you have feelings like I do about not performing places where they mandate a vaccine, like, yeah, you're gonna have to do other stuff. And at the end of the day, isn't it all about like we're all doing what gets us the most exposure, or where we can showcase ourselves? the best. So I just don't understand these. I do and I don't understand the trolls. I just think it's wild.
Jim Brewer doing the same thing. He's like not. I just think there's something about it. And I was getting back to the James Bond thing. It really bothered me that like no one is telling the movie studios that they have to check people's papers. I have friends who aren't vaccinated for various reasons, which is I don't care, right? I don't care. I feel like all of that is a personal choice. But the fact that the studios have like fallen in line so quickly with like, we need to check your vaccination status to go attend a movie where you're supposed to sit and wear a mask. And then every few minutes you can have your popcorn or your drink, you take it off and magically some cone goes around you. So you're not spread. It's just utterly ridiculous. And I feel we're just not having honest conversations about any of this stuff. So when I just see it's like, no one there even talks about this. I feel like I'm alone in having at least some level of independent thought about this. And it's just, I don't know, it just sucks. But I mean, like my outlet Film Thread has never been, I mean, we, for the most part, we give a finger to most of the mainstream Hollywood movies, but we've always covered independent film, right? Which is like a broad and diverse range. And I say diverse, I mean like true diversity. And
not by like virtue signaling diversity.
Exactly. Not like it's like, because I feel like when you say diversity now, it means no white people. That's pretty much what it means. Like that's code for that. And I don't know why, like, but my outlet and the people that I have like 30 people that write for the site and we have editors and whatnot. So it's big in the realm of indie film, but I've always kept it. And this is going back to when we began, politically agnostic, which is what you're supposed to do as a journalist, right? So we cover on Film Threat. If you scroll through, like just where it says next, you can go and just see up there at where it says next on the right. You can see like these are movies that we cover, right? So I didn't realize we had a Titan review. So it's politically agnostic, right? We will cover everything from like a feminist documentary, LGBTQ plus films, to a documentary called The Boys in Red Hats about what happened to those kids when they went to Washington, D.C. I'm sure you know that story, right? So, and we have writers that are feminists from New York City, Christian conservative.
Wow.
A diverse range of writers, all ethnicities, right? The thing that we're all that's a great documentary, by the way, Pharma Bro, about Martin.
It looks good.
It's such a good documentary. I have an interview with the director I did that's I'm going to put up in like a week, but I don't understand why I'm looking at my colleagues who cover film stuff and they kind of have championed one political ideology. And my thought is you can't be that way. And my politics have always been kind of middle of the road, left leaning, but middle of the road. But like now that I'm like, just sort of classic liberal, that makes me all right.
Yeah. Oh, now you're a Nazi. Yeah.
I mean, I was at a Zuby meetup recently. I don't know if you know.
Oh my God, how was it? I love Zuby.
Okay, I love Zuby. Discovered him. I discovered him more from his podcast, not so much his music. But they started watching his podcast. I'm like, oh my God, this guy. And then on Twitter, like he's just like a laser, just like cuts right to, you know. And so he did this kind of secret meetup. You know, it's just like, hey, I want to meet a lot of LA people. As it was at a undisclosed mansion on the west side.
Ooh, okay.
In your house? not like it was some like elitist hoity-toity event, you know. But like it was great. It was like, you know, everyone was there that was just like so disenfranchised. People like myself that were maybe more recent, and then other people that are just like, F this. And I met a guy there who watched FNT. He was like a regular watcher of FNT. It was really funny. This guy, Philip, giving Philip a shout out. We now follow each other on social media, but Zuby, like he made it a point to have a conversation with every single person there.
How many people were there?
With my buddy, Eric Weber. But what I was surprised about is I think like 200 people were invited. I'd say like maybe a little over 100 showed up, but like,
oh, you had to be invited. Okay.
Well, invited, knew about it. But like, why weren't there more people? Why weren't more people there, like talking about this stuff? And I almost feel like even like you can't really have honest conversations even in public so much anymore, except for maybe the bars I go to. That's
people are afraid, so afraid of being judged, shamed, such a fear of loss of friends, family, your job,
Right.
what people have to stop giving a fuck what others think of you. That really, I'm gonna have to promote that.
That's been my philosophy. Is I feel like it kind of shields you from things. Like if you don't give a fuck what people think, it's like, well, I used to say when I did stand up years ago, and I failed miserably at it. I used to say the who gives a shit attitude is like a cologne that attracts vagina.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's true. If you're comfortable with yourself, you're comfortable with who you are, and you respect others and their opinions. Like I said, the Film Threat staff is all these different people from different walks of life. The one thing that everyone has in common, we all have a sense of humor about ourselves, right? Like we don't take ourselves too seriously, and that's what I kind of see. Like some of my colleagues in this space, they take themselves so seriously. And I think this is people in entertainment. I'm sure you've seen it where they have an attitude like what they do is so important.
And it's
right?
and it's everything about it's who they are 100%. It's like it's their whole life. How do you maintain a staff that's diverse but not like not like virtue signaling about it? Like what it's probably no small feat.
Well, it's one thing, like, you can smell the virtue signals when they're there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, to me, I feel this obligation to independent film because I kind of feel like Hollywood, I've always just been dedicated to indie film, right? Because I think that's where emerging voices come from. James Gunn came from indie film, Christopher Nolan, I mean, obviously Quentin Tarantino, and I've just sort of grew up loving, I mean, it was called alternative cinema, independent film, whatever. It's like, these are the movies that just are more truthful, honest. And it doesn't matter to me. Like I'll tell you, I had like this profound experience when I was 16 years old. I saw a retrospective screening of John Waters' Pink Flamingos. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
No.
It's so radical. It's just at the time, like, it's the movie where, an actor named Glenn Milstead, who is a famous drag queen, known as Divine, right? You probably heard of Divine. The last shot of the movie is in one shot, a poodle comes up and poops, and Divine eats the poop. I mean, all is howl, they gag. It's horrifying. But the great thing about John Waters is he has such a great sense of humor. So I've read his books. I've met him and interviewed him many times. He's just a guy. I mean, to me, he's a national treasure. And that attitude has kind of gone away, right? Like he would sneak like little political messaging or whatnot in his movies, but it wasn't like hitting you over the head or being like, it wasn't like on the surface where lazy writers have that today. It was just sort of woven in, and it's like, you decide how to think. Here's some funny ideas. I hope you were entertained. Bye. And that's a John Waters movie,
Wow.
So,
have you noticed the quality of films going down in the last decade, or is it more like this? Like I know you can make an example of this with like some of the Star Wars movies, like they just all the nuance has been taken. It's almost like you're treating the audience that they're not as smart or that they can't put things together on their own.
Well, that's true, but it's like the thing that sucks about Star Wars now is that every Star Wars movie is influenced by the other Star Wars movies. Whereas Star Wars, the original trilogy, was made kind of in a vacuum. They didn't know if it was going to be a hit. And then also Marsha Lucas, I think this is very nerdy, but she's the one that I really think had like a profound impact on George's career. And she was an editor who, like Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, Steven Spielberg, like they ran all their movies by Marsha Lucas. She was a genius. She won an Oscar for editing for Star Wars. And after she and George parted after Return of the Jedi, it was a messy divorce. You can look up the details. I don't know, like that era of filmmaking, it was like a chapter that closed. And there's also really no American cinema today.
And
by that, well, I'll tell you, there are no movies that are like American because I just think we're so divided. This is what these people think, and these people think this and this.
Many niches. Yeah.
There's not a movie that brings us all together like a movie like E.T., right? Like in 1982. I assume you weren't born yet.
Oh, yeah, long before.
I don't know.
It was before I was born, actually. Yeah.
But yeah, there was that. But like that movie, like when that came out, there was just like everybody loved that movie, and we don't have an American cinema now, an identity. And this is why you may not know this, but in other countries, they actually fund the arts, right? Like in Hollywood, it's like, okay, in Hollywood, it's like you take your movie to the studio, they either greenlight it or not. If you're an indie filmmaker in the US, you can raise money, basically find a rich person and sort of placate their ego, because the rich
wear a low cut top, give it your best shot. Yeah.
I'm not kidding. This is how you fundraise in Hollywood, is like, I want the executive producer credit. Every executive producer is someone who put money in or found the financing. All they care about is going to the premiere and the party at Sundance and getting tickets. That's all they care about, right? Or wherever it premieres. But in other countries, France, Canada, among others, they have an arts council. So for example, Canada has like the Canadian Film Board, the CFB. And if you're a Canadian filmmaker, you go to the CFB and they either like your movie or not. There has to be Canadian talent, Canadian actors, Canadian sort of themes that run throughout, because they're trying to preserve their national identity, right?
Wow,
and
that makes sense.
We don't do that. I mean, I don't know that you could point to a movie that is a truly like American movie that was made maybe even in the last like decade or more. I can't think of one.
I don't know why I'm thinking of American Beauty, but I guess anything with Kevin Spacey now is like not a great example. Is it because there's more money to be made in dividing us up?
I mean, I don't know. I just know that like you see it, especially around elections, right? There's an effort to divide people. And I'll see friends of mine completely, and these are friends just like vilifying like certain groups of people for whatever reason that is, you know, the catchphrase of the day. And it kind of just makes me sick to my stomach. I think these are people that also haven't had other types of experiences. And for me, growing up in Detroit, the thing that was kind of cool and uniting about Detroit is that my dad worked for Chrysler, the auto company. My friend's dad worked for Ford. My other friend's dad, he worked for Chevrolet. So there was sort of an evening, sort of an almost like just, there was no elitism, right? Like,
yeah, you guys all did the same thing.
Yeah, we're all kind of middle class because our dads work for the auto companies and you're not better than any of that. It's a very Detroit thing of like, you know, if you think
pretty cool though. Yeah.
So that kind of is a uniting thing. And also like growing up, like my parents got divorced when I was young, pretty typical for that time. I worked at a factory, right? For extra money on the side. I had newspaper routes for a decade from the time I was 9 to 19. I was always I want that. And so if I want a car, if I want an Aurora model kit or to buy comic books, I had to work jobs. So I always had jobs. And what's funny, God, I can't think of the name of the critic who was talking about this, that all the Gen X movies are all about don't work in a corporate space.
Oh, right. Think about like what Empire Records and
Fight Club, Office Space. So many of those movies are
Clerks.
They're all the Gen X.
Ticket to the Man. Yeah,
exactly. F the man. Don't work for a corporation.
The music too kind of was had that messaging.
Exactly. So Film Threat sort of, I guess, the punk rock sort of incarnation of that, but with a thing of like, I want to support all these filmmakers who are up and coming, right? The marketplace is going to decide ultimately at the end if you've made a decent documentary or something that takes off, or maybe it'll end up on a Netflix or be profitable. But your chances of a small indie being profitable, if you've done your due diligence on the marketplace, are decent if you can. So I try to like help filmmakers avoid bad decisions, right? I feel like there are elements of the comedy community that are like that, right? Where people want to kind of pass things down. I used to listen to Mark Maron all the time, and the early Mark Maron was all about like, well, because he would bring people on and say, well, how did you get to where you are? And it's almost like he was getting his own education as he was going in those early.
Oh, okay.
I kind of felt that a bit, but
getting secrets, squeezing out secrets. Yeah,
exactly. But I feel that people in the entertainment industry, especially on the studio level, it's like they don't want to go out of their way to help you at all. And I feel like it doesn't matter if you've got really good material, if you're good at what you're doing, you just need like a little bit of information to be able to. That's why I do all the crap that I do. So
yeah, that's smart. So you actually want to help people. And it does seem like many aspects of the entertainment industry, like, yeah, definitely comedy included. I don't know about the film scene, but it is this kind of like, if you're in, and you know who's kind of your peer. And I can think of so many examples of people who have kind of blown up and then they don't answer my texts anymore. And you're like, what the fuck, Tim Dillon? Or for whoever, for example.
wait, has Tim Dillon been on your show? Did I miss that episode?
No.
Yet? I love
I hosted a show, The Stonewall Inn, years back, and he did it, and we would like, and I hate, like, I don't mean to bring him up like a name dropper, but like I just I think of that as an example of like, however big I get or don't get or whatever, it's just
Didn't you know him when we were little?
Yeah, we went to the same dance class when we were little. I have to find that picture. So I don't know. I just never want to be somebody who big times anybody, and I don't know.
Do you think you had something to do with turning him gay? Do you think that
I wonder if dancing next to me made him be like, ugh, no thanks on women. Yeah, I'll pass. Yeah.
Oh, but there's a weird thing. I just see this, at least not where I live in Los Angeles, but people I've met in certain situations, when they say hi to you, it's almost like I can hear them saying, good to meet you. What can you do for me?
Didn't Whitney Cummings have this thing that she said, like, hi, if you can't help me, like, goodbye, or something like that?
The true thing. I mean,
I've
listened to that or seen that stand-up bit, but I've always, that seems like it's always been that way. And even like with Film Threat in the 90s, I mean, the magazine itself, because it was published by Larry Flint, we were a total pariah. I mean, people hated us. And we wrote articles, like some of the articles in the old magazine were like, we did this article called The Hollywood Caste System, where we compared the like Hollywood to the caste system in India and like the Untouchables.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, what were the levels like?
Oh my God. What's weird is I'd have to actually look at an old issue of the magazine.
And then like the crew, like Grip, like, well, they're, I don't know. I feel like they're pretty, yeah.
And we also did, like, back then, we had a column called Tales from the Casting Couch. This is like 25 years before Me Too. We were writing these articles for almost 2 years. We had this column, which finally the lawyers at LFP are like, this is too hot. We can't do this. So, it did get a little press attention, but pretty much was ignored. And it was just sort of because I moved to Hollywood very naive, like thinking, well, the casting couch is this leftover thing from the 1940s when directors would wear, a beret and carry around a riding crop, that cliche image in your head. And then I meet people in indie film and they're like, oh yeah, that's just sort of an expected thing, whether you were male or female, right? Like this wasn't like limited to women trying out for parts, men as well. And it was just a common knowledge thing. And I'm like, well, that's pretty horrifying. I wonder.
You got to put out no matter what.
Yeah. And so we had people in this column that would tell their stories, but it was largely ignored. I mean, we just tried to at least say, hey, this thing exists. But what can I say? I feel like even though that like the Me Too movement kind of exposed those things, I get the feeling that shit is just still happening anyways.
Yeah. So many things they are out like, oh, but like low key, they're still going on. It's just everything is so superficial. Like it's all just about like, oh, what is the corporate messaging, or what is like the commercial messaging, and then people are gonna act how they act, like no matter what.
It's just like in Pride Month, when they do like everyone puts the rainbow flag on their social media header, and it's just pandering. Whereas for me, this is why we don't like, I really think like the thing that really annoyed me when I first moved to LA was people wearing the ribbons. And then it was like, the ribbons at awards events became like, I don't even know what these colors mean now. There are too many different colored ribbons.
That's why that's why the rainbow was so popular. Cause you're like, fucking whatever it is. It's
exactly. But it's just, that would just annoy me to the point where like, there's this thing on social media called Female Filmmaker Friday, but I think it's pandering. So only on Friday you talk about, like for us, if we run a review or coverage of an indie filmmaker who happens to be a woman, that's a Tuesday. That's just a regular day. Or if we cover a gay themed film, that's just what we do normally. So all those pandering days, I think, are just bullshit. So we don't do that, because I feel like you either live the ideals, but you don't advertise that you're living the ideals. It's like telling someone you donated to a charity rather than just donating to the charity or
absolutely
doing something. Just do it. Don't. The louder you are about it, the more phony, and you see the agenda, which is, look how good I am.
Oh yeah, same applies in comedy. It's like you see shows that like they're all about, oh, this is a diverse show, or this is a queer show, or this is like all female. But like I booked a ton of comedy shows. I would book all types, but without telling everybody like how diverse I was booking. Same thing with my boyfriend. He had booked 2 clubs in Westchester before the pandemic. Just always booking like a very diverse crowd, but not telling everybody, oh, look, I booked this super diverse show. And it's almost like you're not gonna get the credit unless you're so outspoken about how diverse you are. And it's like, to me, it comes across not being genuine.
I 100% agree. And I see that in film too. People try to brag about certain aspects. And it's just like, look, just at the end of the day, just make a good film. Make a good film. You're not going to get extra points because, everyone on the crew was a certain ethnicity. It doesn't matter to me. But also, I think even diversity is sort of overplayed in the sense that I think I DM'd you that trailer for Licorice Pizza. That's the Paul Thomas Anderson movie. And the thing is this is like, I grew up watching like a lot of different types of movie because my mom
watched it. Yeah.
My mom was like just she loved like art cinema and all this. And so I grew up watching a lot of Asian cinema. I never thought to myself for a minute, like, there are no white people in Johnny Sacco and his giant robot or Ultraman or the Toho monster movies, right? Although they would add sort of a token white dude in those every once in a while for international, but like that never struck me. It's like I have no expectation when I see a movie like Parasite, right?
Which good, such a good movie.
It's such a good movie, but I almost feel like you can get away with the messages in that movie because it's all about class disparity because it's a world cinema film. It's a foreign film, right? You can get away with that messaging. If you remade that here in the United States, it would not, I feel like it would just be like way on the nose. The fact that it's like, well, it's in a foreign language and whatever. And you kind of read your meaning into the subtitles, the performance in your head, which I think actually helps the messaging. So I don't know. I just don't think that it really matters. I'd rather see a movie I don't care to see a movie with no white people or all white people. Like, you can do that. Just tell a good story that engages me. Help me connect with someone who isn't me. That's the point of all fiction. So
yeah. Well, I was just thinking, like, what would be the the equivalent or like the all white equivalent of Parasite? Like, I think it would just be like, would it be like me and every like millionaire boss I've had a day job with like over my life? It's like how their life goes, and then like how my life would go. I don't know. But then people would be like, they wouldn't care because I'm white.
Well, it would be like maybe Friends. When Friends, I know, is very popular. I didn't really like that show. I always preferred Seinfeld just because I just thought it was just a smarter show. Friends was always like,
Friends was so stupid. I was like, who's loving this show? The most basic dumb person is who this is geared towards. I don't know.
Well, the thing is that, I'd been to New York during that period of time and I looked at their apartments. I'm like, no effing way that they could afford those apartments. One. And number two, I'm like, I don't want to hang out with them.
No.
That was sort of like,
I didn't buy in any of those characters.
Right. Exactly. So never too much a fan of Friends. So.
Yeah, not fans of Friends. I'm going to do some of these super chats before they scroll away.
Well, they're super chats.
From Blaine Savini, you can't fight racism by blaming it all on one race, nor can you fight sexism by blaming it all on one gender. I love that.
Thank you, Blaine.
People love to blame men for everything and the whites. From Matthew Hammond, Chris needs to talk to Clifton Duncan. He was a stage actor in New York that moved to Atlanta. Zuby's interview of him was amazing.
I love Clifton. Seen him on FNT, and I watched the first episode of his podcast, which just launched and is on YouTube.
Ooh,
he started a podcast. So yeah, I'm very familiar. I would love to talk to Clifton.
I've never heard of him. Huh.
This is the thing, Clifton Duncan. Oh, you would love Clifton. You would love him. He's
why has he got a big dick?
Well, I mean, one could make the assumption. Anyways, but Clifton's like a classically trained actor who just cannot work in the industry now because of his political views. And this is what I always say, like, it's like, make your own shit. And this is the thing I've done. The FNT guys, I'll bust their balls a little bit and say, look, for every 9 videos you make complaining about Star Wars or Marvel, make one video. One video where you just talk about a small indie movie that actually sort of breaks through. You should see. I will give you a recommendation. You should see a movie called Donnie's Bar Mitzvah.
Oh yeah, okay.
Donnie's Bar Mitzvah. You can rent it. It's probably on Amazon for $3. Or you can use this app. I use this app called Just Watch.
Ooh, okay.
Just Watch will not only tell you where you can watch it for free, or the sort of pricing tiers. You can get it on YouTube for this or Amazon for this. So I use this thing. So Donnie's Bar Mitzvah is like a classic comedy from the 80s. It's incredibly raunchy. I mean, so much effed up stuff. We did a watch party with the filmmaker. I'm just like, how did you get away with all this stuff? And that's what I'm saying. If like all the guys who do the channels on FNT like decided like this week we're going to talk about this movie, like Pharma Bros.
Okay, yeah, like shifting gears a little bit.
Just here's an indie movie, right? Like Pharma Bros, cannot recommend that documentary enough. It even starts out at a comic book shop because they talk about what makes a classic villain. It's this documentary, which I believe it came out today, actually, Pharma Bro. It's about Martin Shkreli, the real story of Martin Shkreli.
That's really cool.
I just blown away by this doc. Stuff that you think you know about him. He's the guy who had like, he got the rights to this pill that was
and like upcharged it mega
$700, and he became like this villain. And like
a cancer drug or something.
Not a cancer drug. It's a rare disease that it treats, which is why they don't make a lot of that drug, which is his justification for why he charged so much. But he got the rights to it. I didn't even know you could do this. You could just get the rights to drugs that have kind of been, like retired, because not many people actually get, like literally like less than 800 people get this disease that require this pill, right?
Wow.
So you're making this pill for a small group of people, which is his justification. Anyways, I'm not going to tell you the guy comes out looking any nicer than you probably already think of him from what you know, but it's just such an amazing doc. I'm a huge fan of documentaries too. I mean, I think I sent you that teaser. Like, I'm the subject of a documentary that's going to be coming out in, and then it's about film threat, not so much about, because I started it, that's a part of it. And then I'm making a documentary right now. So I sort of love sort of pop culture I have a very diverse taste when it comes to movies. I think when you diversify your media diet, it makes the fact that the latest Star Wars movie sucks, it's less of a blow, because like my whole life doesn't revolve around that.
Wow, that's a really good point.
Well, it's just like if you eat McDonald's every day, which is a good documentary.
That's another one. Yeah.
By Morgan Spurlock, who's a longtime friend who kind of canceled himself, actually. I hope he decides to make a comeback at some point. But yeah, I feel like if you diversify your media diet, then things don't seem as, it doesn't seem as critical when a big budget Hollywood movie sucks, which is, 8 times out of 10 usually the case. Then it's like, oh, I've got these other things to fall back on entertainment wise. So
how do you know where to go for that? Like, how do you even start that if you're so used to just,
well, probably my website. I can't really think, but also just like, look, like if you go have like Voodoo or some of these other things, look in the indie section. And I always like, today I just watched a documentary about Tom Savini, who's a makeup artist, actor, stunt person. I'm a big fan of Tom Savini, and I'm going to talk to the director and Tom on my podcast, which nobody watches my podcast, by the way. It's me talking to filmmakers, very inside baseball about like the industry and whatnot. So I try to help people with the stuff that I do. Is I just want to impart this knowledge while I'm also doing my own projects and sort of tell people creative ways of doing things. Like, I probably could have used your advice when for a brief period I did stand up for a bit.
When was this? How many years ago? I need to see this. Too many tapes.
2014. Well, I did this thing called the Kings of Cosplay Comedy. So we would get up and dress in cosplay. Like, I would dress as George Lucas, and then I would
I can see
stand
that
up in character, right? I mean, there's videos. Then I wore like Ben Grimm, who's the Thing in the Fantastic Four, he basically wears like a blue Speedo and like a white belt with a 4 on it. So I would like dress up like Ben Grimm, but I would be Ben Grimm with no powers, and I would come out and just talk about he was a bad cosmic ray. These are like very, very inside baseball, like catering to a con crowd. So I was in this improv group called Comic Book Live, where we would just make up a comic book on the just on the fly.
Where was it out of? Was it out of like one of the theaters?
IO West
okay.
in Hollywood, which is now closed. But yeah, so IO West, I did that show for a couple of years, and then we would tour it at conventions like San Diego Comic-Con and other Phoenix Comic-Con. Then I sort of spun that off into doing stand-up. This was only after people like, it was Jonah Ray, actually, who I worked with at Attack of the Show when I was at G4, who said, you should do stand-up. Like, you're like, and it was just like, no, I'm a guy that talks about movies, and occasionally I say something that might be considered funny, but no. And then he finally like put me up at the Nerdist Theater, and I was like, okay, well, I survived my 7 minutes, and then it was like I just got encouragement, and I put out one project. I'll actually show it to you, because it was just like, I feel like maybe I'm better at marketing than stand-up, and for that is probably 100% true.
That's
but I
so much a part of stand-up anyway. Celebrities poop.
I put out a book, it's a parody of a book called Everyone Poops.
Yes, okay, it does look familiar. Okay, that's
Karagomi, and my daughter actually did the paintings. But it's all like it's there's stuff.
Why is Tom Cruise's poop like jumping on a couch or something?
Well, there's like all this stuff, like it's just like it's in the style of everybody that. And like in the back of the book, you would get like a code to download my album.
Oh, I love that.
That's so it was great. Like, because nobody bought CDs, right? Yeah. So but like Donald Trump is in here, Obama's in here, so the era, right? So I put that out in 2014, but the book is still like, I think it's on Amazon. You can still get it. It's perfect thing to have in the bathroom. But I realized there were two things. One, I would go with like my friend Yoshi. He and I would like travel a lot together.
Would you be on his back, like actual Yoshi? Like
I would be, like Yoshi. Yeah. But no, Yoshi, he's got
apples whole.
He's got a great story. You should look up Yoshi Obayashi. I keep telling him, I'm like, look, if you ever want to do a documentary.
Sounds like the name of that like competitive hot dog eater guy.
He is not that, but he's a Korean comedian with a Japanese sounding name. And I became friends with him like in 2013. And he's just a good guy. He's a guy that like other comedians really respect. Like Russell Peters would put him up. He'd open for Russell Peters and people at that level. And they all like him because he's just brutal. Here's a guy that just doesn't give a fuck.
That's great.
He was very encouraging. I just realized like the amount of work I don't need to tell you, the amount of work you need to do to be a successful stand-up comedian. It's like, that is your whole life. That is your focus. And I really like movies are the thing that where my passion lies, and making films, helping filmmakers. I realized like it was fun to be a part of that world for a little bit, but I cut myself off just as I was getting started. But it
is this thing where like you don't know how successful you can be at stand-up until you are all in, and sometimes people can't be all in. Like that's why it's mostly men. It's like it kind of stops you from having a family. Like you have to really dedicate 10 years and give a lot of things up to just see if you can make it.
I realized that as I was getting started. I really was doing it for like 4 years, sort of mixing the improv. Then I did this podcast. Which I still think I always wanted to make it a TV show. It was called Pod Crash. The concept was every week I was on a different podcast, and I would just play clips of me on that podcast on my podcast. So I never actually, and I would be on like dating podcasts and sex advice podcasts, food podcasts, travel, comedy, movies, video games. Like, so I did all these different podcasts, and I would just sort of like, it was basically kind of an advertisement for the other show. Kind of like a Top Soup kind of thing. But I was always the guest, so I was like this running thread.
You're a Renaissance man.
Well, I don't know. I did like 100 episodes. Then I'm like, I think I have to like, this isn't getting the traction that I had hoped. But it's I feel like that's, I feel like it's fun to try those things. Know what you're good. Like I look at like Gary at Nerdrotic, and I'm like, oh my god, like the success that he's had, and like to be that good at what he does, and to be like on a live stream. He's done live streams that are like 8 hours, and I'm like,
I don't know how. What bucket is he peeing into? Like, how does he keep going?
I feel the same way. Like I can't. I'm sitting here for like an hour. My ass is already like.
Oh yeah, this chair is so uncomfortable. I fell off of it the other day. Like
I know I saw that.
Constantly shifting. I'm never comfortable. I don't know how people do it.
Your Jen Psaki was so
thank you. Oh my god.
If you spit that off and kind of like what Kyle Dunnigan is doing and just did that, that was great. And you obviously you had
to do more.
Material that was kind of written. I mean, I don't know how much you went off script or whatever. It was so good.
Thank you. She is like very hateable, so it's like it's fun to do. And her you just have to like listen to somebody talk and just be like, what can I exaggerate here? With her, she's just so boring. Like, okay, and she talks like this, and you can tell like Obama, I think, coaches her speech because well, the American people, and I want to address that the president is very concerned, and she's interesting to do. And she also is she has a certain deadness behind her eyes. So I was like, okay, if I'm just doing her, that's kind of boring. So I was like, I have to make her a little funny, or else it's not going to be an interesting parody.
Well, at least someone is, well-spoken in that administration. I don't know if you saw the video that came out with Biden today, where he's just.
He was like live on Twitter. There was like less than 700 people watching.
And it was just a weird thing where like, I feel for him. I feel like if you've had a relative that's gone through that, where their mind is not all there, it's tragic and sad. And this is happening right before our eyes. I mean, it's like even the gaslighting with the Let's Go Brandon thing, I mean, I can understand all those people saying fuck Joe Biden. And when you see like, this is what gives me hope, is like the people at all these stadiums saying that. But the thing that is creepy is the woman who was the announcer, and I'm sure that she had little IFBs, someone in her ear telling her like, no, let's go say. So it wasn't, I don't even blame the woman who was interviewing that NASCAR.
Right. Cause I don't think she would have come up with that on her own. She's probably so busy focused on like who she's talking to
trying to save, yeah, she was trying to save the live feed. So it's like, and you can hear what they're saying. Let's go, Brandon. And it's like, how do we see this? This is like 1984 stuff. Like, it isn't what you're seeing. Or even when like Biden got the booster and it was like, okay, that's a set. Like, where is and also we live in this age of, this is why I think YouTube is so popular, is because YouTube appeals to authenticity. If you are not authentic on YouTube, you are not going to succeed, period. And that's where I think like, a lot of like the people who are successful on YouTube, like yourself, are just people who are very authentic,
Well, that, and I can't really TikTok. I mean, I don't really, it's one or the other. Remember when TikTok used to be just choreography, and now it's fucking people pointing to words? Like you literally need no talent. You need no thoughts.
Maybe if you did a TikTok where you kind of did some bits where like, I bet if you did a parody account where you were dead serious about something political, people would think you were serious, not knowing who you are. Like if they didn't know that you did comment, but I feel like, and then do you see the trends, like people jumping up and down in their outfit changes? Like
maybe I'll do one just for Jen Psaki. I don't know. I've been like, oh, the fucking Chinese, like that kind of not on TikTok, but I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it's worth it for me to just do it.
I don't know. I started a film threat TikTok where all I'm doing is I'm not doing anything special with it. I'm just posting videos that we've produced in the past to go like, so I mean, one of them blew up with like 40,000 views, which is cool, but it's like, I don't know, like, I feel like they're just data mining. I mean, isn't that what that is? It's data mining, and it's more of a Gen Z thing.
Interesting. We got a comment from Svenstead. I don't know. I can't pronounce this. I think these are Danish bucks. Danish movies are made for us, and same with other countries. Yeah, it seems like other countries have held on to their country pride and like creating content for kind of everybody.
Well, they do that, and they have their own national cinema. Like, and I like that because I like to see, well, like, what is, you know, like, I happen to personally I like Korean horror. I like French.
What did you call me?
But you know what I mean? Like, you know, when you see like a different, where they don't give a shit about America, that's why this Shang-Chi thing is so weird. It's like, well, what if China made a movie all with white people and wanted to release it in the United States?
Oh my God, I would love to see it.
First of all, I would love to see it because, you know, it would be kind of off culturally.
It would be like a little racist too. Like,
exactly.
I'm eating French fries.
Which is why I understand that the Chinese are kind of offended by Shang-Chi. It's like, you're just making this movie in America with all these Asian actors to get our money. It's very like, which is fine.
Like kissing their ass, kind of.
Exactly, yeah. But it is so weird. And so when we don't understand why other people are upset with us, I feel like you need to have that kind of empathy, right? Even if it's someone like, I heard, what did I say that I heard that like, the right understands the left more than the left understands itself.
Ooh, that's really good. That's true.
Which I think is like, and again, my politics were always like center left. And like when I was talking to Zuby, he was saying like all these things that are coming down, all these policies, the mask mandates, the vaccine mandate, which I think as someone who's vaxxed, I don't know that I'm going to get the booster. I kind of feel like Bill Maher. Like, I did what I was supposed to do. I followed these rules. The last thing,
people are there. Yeah.
I was very fortunate to get the vaccine early. Right. And I, you know,
because where does it end? It's like, what do you have 10, 15 boosters?
No,
and what's in them?
Exactly. And you know, and I've been exposed to people who had like in the room and they got COVID and they had it the next day. And then I got tested. I never got it. So I've been tested a couple times, never gotten it. I haven't been sick since 2019.
Yeah. You have a good immune system.
Yeah. I guess. I mean, I take vitamins. I've always taken like zinc and vitamin D were the two things, like before I was told that was a thing to do. You know, it was mainly because I got really sick in 2004. And like I say, my lungs are at a less capacity already. And because of that experience, I get the flu shot and I take vitamins. And then I just try not to do stupid shit.
You try not to let as many homeless people spit in your mouth.
I rarely do that. I rarely do that. But I really love seeing world cinema where you just get a taste of what the culture is. We're so, you know, American centric, although that has even sort of lost its meaning, that it's fun to kind of see like, well, what is it like in other countries? It also makes you appreciate a lot of who we are and what we are now. Although I think we're going through something right now.
We are going through something like an identity crisis, like a massive, like it's been kind of trendy even since I was in college. So that's since like the early aughts. Like it was already trendy to be like anti-American. Like everyone, you know, all the students like, I'm going to study abroad because it's cooler than America. It's better. And it's like, no, it's not. From Latino Slant. Hola, Chrissy and Chris. What Latino a great talk. Slant. You know the Latino Slant?
Yes, I do. Yeah, we've been on shows together.
Oh, sweet. Different opinions on issues in Hollywood is always appreciated. What it comes down to, regardless of the storyteller's skin color, is their unique perspective of the world. Gracias. So Love true. It. So true. From Mikey Gussler, the last modern movie I remember people raving about was Joker. Everyone seemed to get the themes and it sparked lots of discussion. Yeah, that was great. Because we can all jump on board with mental illness.
Todd Phillips, who is a brilliant filmmaker. I mean, that Joker kind of like, and that was before the world, you know, blew up. And I remember talking to some other people I knew from other media outlets, and they were so afraid. They're like, something's going to happen. It's like, no, I think you want something to happen. To vilify this movie is really about mental illness going unaddressed. That's one of the threads.
So real. There were so many real moments.
Such a great, I hear that they're doing a follow-up. Mikey,
oh gosh, really?
We're doing, yeah. I know Todd Phillips from back in the day. He started the New York Underground Film Festival. He was one of the founders of that. I actually distributed one of his early movies because one of the things Film Threat did is we would distribute movies on DVD and VHS. He did a documentary called Gigi Allen and the Murder Junkies. It's called Hated, and it's about Gigi Allen, the musician. And when we were about to release it, he passed away. And it's a long story, but I know Todd Phillips, and seeing him like it's no surprise that these guys with indie sensibilities are somehow able to traverse Hollywood, like James Gunn being among them. I would give you another recommendation for a movie for James Gunn that got him the job for Guardians of the Galaxy. It's called Super.
Super?
Super. It's just called Super.
Okay.
Rainn Wilson plays a superhero, and it's like a punk rock superhero movie that feels kind of like a trauma film if you're a trauma person. I love Super, and I met I feel like I'm name dropping. I just because
name drop away, Chris. Well,
I met him at the St. Louis Film Festival in the 90s, and the guy's like the same guy, right? He's just sort of like a guy that he did a movie called Romeo and Juliet.
That's cute.
Like, he's done like all these small movies. This guy has like earned his, where he is. But I feel like that indie sensibility is something, if you can like maintain that and work in Hollywood, more power to you. It's just
what is an indie sensibility? Just being grounded and like knowing, like staying in reality, basically.
It's basically having a singular vision where you're not, you get noted to death, right? When you're making a Hollywood movie. I mean, this is why a lot of, I think, like when you see a Hollywood movie that doesn't work, you're like, who did they make this for? Or the movie's like 2.5 hours, but really only needed 2 hours.
Too much.
There are too many cooks, right? And it's like, it's someone who's able to have a singular vision. And when you look at The Suicide Squad, that feels like a James Gunn movie, right? And it also doesn't feel compromised, like people were looking over his shoulder trying to tell him, no, you got to do this or to make it popular. Yeah, I mean, it was super fun. So strongly recommend Super and seeking out James Gunn's earlier work.
Ooh, okay, good. I hope you guys are writing these down. I'm gonna write them down too. From Matthew Hammond for 10. Why do production companies keep listening to these people preaching diversity when the movies lose money when they follow their recommendations instead of telling a good story?
I think it's this weird white guilt where these people coasted into these executive positions. So they went to, a Harvard or a top school, right? They knew all the right people or married well, and they get in these positions and they feel guilty. And so because of that guilt, they surround themselves with people that will make them feel better. Whether it, you know what I'm saying? So not necessarily someone who by their merits has gotten to a place. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen. It's just like, I feel like they're just hiring the wrong people in these positions. So that's what I would say. And there's just, and also a lot of these people, like I say, they got into the positions, not necessarily earned. I'm talking about executives.
Interesting. And I feel like that's so true of, this is like not a hot take, but when you look at who are the writers for SNL, like there's no diversity in point of view. Like, yeah, sure, they're different colors, but like, and you wonder like how much truly individual or unique ideas are thwarted by, the corporate overlords, because it's just so unwatchable. Still.
It's so unwatchable. And it's like, I can't and I grew up watching SNL. I loved SNL. It was like the gold standard. It produced so many good, there's always that sort of changeover where you're like, well, they're getting a new crew. We'll like them in 2 years and then they're amazing. Right. But like, the thing that they didn't do is they don't make fun of woke culture, which is so ripe for parody.
Oh,
and
God. Yeah.
Time they did it, you can look this up. It's a parody video called Woke Jeans, starring Woke Jeans, starring Ryan Gosling. I think it's like 3 or 4 years old. It's one of the only times they kind of leaned in to making fun of woke culture. Like, but it's funny, it's not, it's like, I think this is the problem that I have with people that are super woke is they just a profound lack of a sense of humor.
And a lack of self-awareness as well.
Yes. No self-awareness, no sense of humor about themselves. I want to surround myself with friends who they all have a sense of humor about themselves, and they can also tell me to go fuck myself if I become too full of myself at any given moment. Or if I have that's
is this it?
Yeah. But
cute.
It's why didn't they lean into that? Why didn't SNL lean into doing humor that makes fun of just like, there's so much weird stuff to make fun of in the culture right now. I'm shocked that I mean, that was funny at the time, but they didn't, like, since then they've gone out of their way to basically all their humor is based on one side or it's agenda based, like that horrible Stephen Colbert, like that.
Oh God. Yeah, you know what it was? Like they were vilifying Trump the whole time he was in office. Now that Trump's out, they vilify anybody who supported him or anybody who supports DeSantis or anyone who, you know what I mean? It's like it's just trickled down to like anybody who might be on the right. And it's just an overall just general hatred of a different side.
It's state TV. It's state TV. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's all it is. And I mean, at least back in the day, you know, SNL made fun of everybody, all sides were ripe for, you know, comedy, and because they don't do that now. It just adds to all of the divisiveness. And it's shocking that can't you see that you're doing this? Are there any sober-minded writers in the room? Like, and when you look at like, how would even a Dave Attell, like, I just love Dave Attell, right?
Oh, he's great. Like, and he's like, he has no ego about him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Saturday Night Live premiere ratings down nearly 50% compared to last year. Yeah. People have had it. Like they're not even tuning in.
And I don't understand, like, where are the people, like, because I think at the end of the day that entertainment media, movie studios, television, the color that they like more than anything is green. Why are they not looking at the data and saying we have turned off 50% of this country we're not making money on, right? Why isn't there a way to make it so that, like, that woke jeans thing, I can't believe it was really 2017. Wow, 4 years ago. Like, yeah. Like that was like the one and only time I can remember where they just were like, oh, and but I mean, I don't know, someone who's woke, would they be offended by that commercial? It's
because they'd be like, oh, that's not me. Like that's somebody else's kind of woke.
Exactly. But it just seems like there's so much ripe, you know, to make fun of, that when you make fun of only one side, we're not everybody's laughing. So
the thing is, they're so concerned, SNL, with hiring the most diverse staff, but they don't realize, like, oh, good, now we got every color, great, but they don't realize like just about every person has like had very similar backgrounds, similar upbringing. They're not going to hire a funny truck driver. They're not going to hire like a funny, you know, like for someone like you. I mean, it's just it's like that's really narrow-minded. They're like, we want a 30-year-old, you know, like black or trans or whatever, like gay, you know, barista that lives in Brooklyn. Like that's it. And that's their whole squad.
It just seems that the filter for what the comedy is, because I watched episodes last year and I would always shake my head because, you know, it used to be like, oh, you can watch SNL, because I never watched the musical guest. I just don't care. And I would just like scan through it. It's like, oh, I got like, there's like 30 minutes, you know, you can watch SNL if you just scan through the bad stuff. Whenever they would just sort of lazily, the opening monologue is a song, that was always a thing for me to just skip ahead. But like, it just became less and less funny things. And they used to even be on point with their parody commercials, and they're just not there. And they even did, when Timothée Chalamet was on last year, and they did this whole thing about getting the vaccine, and it was just like, this isn't even funny. It felt so off.
Even a sketch about like you have like a hospital or whatever, a bunch of people that it's like a group, right? They're looking for like group therapy, but they've all had crazy vaccine side effects. Like play that up, but maybe the person in charge is like, oh, this is definitely not from the vaccine, and people are like, no, it definitely grew a tail, you know, like that's at least a funny idea you could play with. But instead, I watched so much of it last Saturday. They did this like mock sort of school board meeting, and it just screams like they went with the first draft of somebody's idea. And like every parent that came up to talk at the school board meeting was crazy, you know, they all looked crazy. None of them made any sense. And it's like, so you're going to make fun of parents who are active at school board meetings for legitimate reasons and just sort of like basically call them dumb. And it was so not smart. It was like not.
Well, I guarantee that was written by someone who doesn't have children.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I always notice that in movies, especially Hollywood movies, where it's just like, oh yeah, this director, this is not, it's inauthentic. Just having raised two kids from, and I was at the time I had written my festival book, I was a stay-at-home dad, you know, taking care of my kids and then also like working on this book and doing film threat. You know, it's just like you can tell how inauthentic that is. I mean, you know, when someone writes it from a place of like they had that experience, it just feels more real. And yeah, there's just I don't know. I for me, SNL is like I just don't care anymore. You know, it's just it's a waste of time.
Yeah,
So
a lot of people are there are there with you. From Matthew again, Razor Fist is another great YouTube that can stream forever. His Rageaholic movie reviews are amazing, and his Friday video game streams are fantastic. All right, we'll check that out as well. From John Branson, great interview. Does Chris have a YouTube tube channel?
YouTube, I do.
YouTube tube.
Well, Film Threat has a YouTube channel, so you could just look up Film Threat. And I do twice a week. I interview filmmakers, mostly with movies that are coming out on video on demand. So these are smaller movies, and I really get into the weeds on that stuff. But also, if you Google, if you just go into YouTube and you do Chris Gore Film Courage, I've done a series of videos with Film Courage that have kind of blown up. Surprise to me, I do a whole sort of breakdown of why the new Star Wars sequel trilogy didn't work. And I compare the death of Han Solo to the death of Spock in Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan, and sort of what one was handled this way, one was handled this way. This is why this one worked. This is why this one didn't. So just look up Chris Gore Film Courage or Film Threat, and and I've done interviews on other channels and whatnot, but this is for me a real treat being a fan of Chrissie and watching you on FNT and watching you, being interviewed on other channels, wherever else. You've done some really good stuff with Carrie Smith.
I love Carrie Smith. Oh my gosh, she feels like my sister. I feel like I might have given her COVID, but you know what? We're all in this together.
I love her hats. She's got great taste in hats. She can really pull it off. But
and
her story
too, yeah.
Yeah, her story is really interesting. So, but I see all these people like moving around. I mean, you're still in New York, right? Like,
yeah. I'm in Westchester. I'm not in the city, so it's like I'm only really going into the city like once a week, maybe twice a week to do like pods and shows. So
yeah, it's I don't know how much. I mean, Pasadena is a little sort of like as far enough away from LA to be able to enjoy LA, except there's not as much to enjoy about LA, right? But the thing that is real disconcerting is walking around like. I go for walks every day outside in the sun, and I still see people wearing masks outside. There is no mandate for wearing masks outside. There's no, even the CDC a long time ago said you don't need to wear a mask outside. But I see about 50% or more of people walking around outside alone with no one around them, walking their dog, wearing a mask. And I'm like, and look, I come from a family of a lot of people in my family came from military. My uncle was in Vietnam. My grandfather was in World War II. My son is a U.S. Marine. Like,
wow,
and I never joined the military. So there you go. I
can do 4 push-ups now.
but I'm a guy that I follow the rules, right? Like this is the rule. It's like, cool. I'm going to follow the rules. That's why the thing that was so sickening to me was to see that thing at the Met and the Emmys and like,
oh God, yeah,
where's the help? Where it's like it's Hunger Games now. We're wearing when you've got the help with the masks covered, and this is why I feel like if I go to Trader Joe's, which is 3 blocks from where I live, I go to Trader Joe's, they have to wear masks for 8 hours. I'm in there for 20 minutes. I'm happy to wear a mask in solidarity with the people who work at Trader Joe's because it's like I feel for them, but I just. It's like a mental illness, and the disease is the cure is turning off the mainstream media at this point because it's just proven itself to be unreliable. That's why the Let's Go Brandon thing, which now there are many people that have done t-shirts now. It's amazing.
Yeah. Good time to be named Brandon.
It crystallizes that entire thing being gaslit in real time about people's real concerns. People at a NASCAR race that are just regular people enjoying their lives. And I in all the time, I've never seen like a president that was like, you see this kind of thing happening, right? And it is kind of catchy. you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it is so popular because it's like we are being told that your reality is not your reality. It's so like, I mean, you can't compare it anymore to 1984. Like the things you're seeing and hearing and believing, like your experience is not real. You're just afraid of the air. That's where we're at.
Yeah, weird.
From Mikey Gessler, Chris, what do you think of Zack Snyder as a director, and do you like his films?
I do like Zack Snyder. I loved that Justice League that was on HBO Max. I think Man of Steel is unappreciated. BVS was a bit of a misstep. But no, for the most part, I like most of what Zack Snyder has produced. That Army of the Dead thing was not so great, unfortunately, but really do like Zack Snyder. I think his Watchmen was if you're going to do, a 3-hour version of Watchmen, I really think it should be a limited series on HBO, 12 1-hour episodes. Talking about the original Alan Moore comic book, which if you're going to get into comics, Chrissy, the original Watchmen comic, those 12 issues, I read it once a year just to confirm to myself that like the medium can do something like that. I mean, so many people were influenced by that Watchmen comic, which came out, what was it, 1984, 85? Wow. 80s, 86? I don't know, mid 80s. The original Watchmen comic came out. It took like a little over a year for it to all come out. It's incredible. That and The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller. 2 comics that are milestones.
Okay.
Do you have Dark Knight Returns?
No, the only 2 I have were given to me by an FNT fan.
Oh, nice.
Same guy. Shout out to Spiridon. He came to 2 of my stand-up shows and gave me these. Kingdom Come.
Good. Oh, that's great. Those are both really good.
Batman Hush. And he was I think he worked at a bookstore, and he was like, and they're not cheap. Like these are like solid, Have I finished them both yet? No. I just like to pull them out and impress people.
Well, give Watchmen a try, the comic, just because it's so God, it's a lot of like the division that we're dealing with now, right?
Ooh, okay.
It sort of delves into the division that we're experiencing, and it has like this alternate view of the future where Nixon is still president in the 80s, and it's phenomenal. And the superheroes that are in it are kind of like doppelganger. They're kind of like based on Superman and Batman. You can kind of tell who they were supposed to be based on. And Alan Moore had originally pitched it as sort of a deconstruction of DC Comics characters. They said, well, you can't do this with these characters. So we just created an alternate universe.
Wow. It's cool.
Phenomenal. Even better, this sounds weird to say, if you don't want to read it, there is the animated comic book that you can get, and you can just watch it. Every episode's about 30 minutes, and you can watch it. I think you can even find it on YouTube. And it's somebody who reads the comics. They do a little animation with it that tells the story of it, and it's really fantastic. So,
cool. Wow, I have so much homework to do.
I have a lot of nerd recommendations.
I have nerd homework to do. From Uber Geek, Man of Steel 2013 or Superman 2, the Donner Cut, which is better?
Oh, wow. I would say Donner Cut, although what I don't like in the Donner Cut are a lot of the music cues are changed, and he adds some unnecessary sound effects, but I have a theory about that. My feeling is on the Donner Cut is he did the recut because they wanted to cut the Salkinds out of some profits.
Ooh, the salty.
Producers, yeah, a little saltiness there. The Salkinds wanted to, because they kind of tricked everybody when they made the original Superman movie. They gave him like this 300-page script and like, here's the script to Superman, which was basically 2 movies. They did this with movies, The Three Musketeers, where the actors thought they signed for 1 movie, but then they just split it into 2 movies to kind of screw them out of money.
What a trap.
And wow. They tried to do that with Richard Donner and Superman, and he left. And then famously the Superman 2 was finished by another director. But this is inside baseball nerd stuff.
I'm here for it. Here's another nerd question coming at you from Matthew. Did Chris ever watch Bruce Timm's Batman, the animated series? What happened to animation?
Every episode of that show. Love the Bruce Timm animated series. I even did a spin-off magazine because Film Threat was in the 90s. Well, it was a popular indie sort of counterculture movie magazine, right? So like people I meet now that are around my age, they probably grew up in college reading it. So we did a spin-off magazine from Film Threat called Wild Cartoon Kingdom, which was all about animation. So we covered Batman, the animated series. It's so great. It's incredible. And yeah, love that run. I mean, the origins of the characters, the music, that opening sequence. I think I still have a Xerox of the storyboards of that. I don't have all the stuff that Gary has hung up behind, but if you look around my room, I'm surrounded with nerd stuff. This is my.
I want to look at your room. No, I always show people like, this is how messy. Like I just tilt the camera. Oh, and stuffed animals. Nothing to see here. I was like, I just tilt the camera away from my mess.
Like that's Batman stuff.
Okay.
That's like
other. Like, that's my life-size sex doll. Oh, you have a Baby Yoda too.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the Baby Yoda. And I've got like
I fall for it.
Into weird. I don't know. I like nerd stuff. Who doesn't?
I'm getting into it more and more. I've rewatched the whole like initial Star Wars trilogy, and then I did a review and I called fucking Anakin Luke, and I don't know.
Oh, that's great. That's great. We would always do like, I don't know if you're like to San Diego during San Diego Comic-Con. If you're there, you should do.
I've never been to San Diego. I should go there.
Well, a friend of mine works at a comedy club there. Let me know. I can connect you with him. That's like a crowd where they're kind of like stuck doing that. They're looking for something to do in the evenings. So we would even do like our comedy stuff like there, like during Comic-Con, because you've got this captive audience.
Ooh, right? Okay.
You kind of look at, so that's kind of how we would book our things, is look at like, well, there's a comic convention. They'll like what we're doing. Although I eventually, when we were doing this Kings of Cosplay comedy, one of the guys who's in the group, because we patterned our logo off of the Kings of Comedy, and they contacted me and said, you can't use that logo. And of course I stopped. I was like, all right, I'm not, we're just trying to goof on that. And it was like, I didn't want to piss that person off. So yeah.
You lost your nerve. Yeah.
Well, I didn't want to there's just like no reason for it. I just to me, it's like if an idea like it is a parody and it looked just like the logo. It's like, I'll just come up with a better idea. I really don't care. Right. Parallel thinking. There was I did this stand-up gig back in 2011 or 2012. And I got up, I did my gig. And I got off stage and the girl's like, I did a joke. I have a joke that's just like the one that you did. It's parallel thinking. Yeah. And it was about the joke was sort of it's the year 2012. Is the world going to end? We don't know what's going to happen, but I'm wondering if the Mayans in their mind's eye, did they see the trailer for the movie 2012? Is that what they actually saw? That's
funny. Yeah.
I actually said that to a guy who's an archaeologist, and he said, oh yeah, that's actually possible, because if they could actually see in the future, they wouldn't understand modern technology anyways. So they wouldn't know the difference between a movie, a TV show, or reality.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
From Mikey Gusler, with Chris talking about loving to collect nerd stuff. I just pre-ordered Kiss Destroyer 45th Anniversary Super Deluxe Edition. Is Chris a Kiss fan?
Of course. Love Kiss. Love Kiss. I wonder if they still have. I know that they bought an arena football team that played in Anaheim. I'm wondering if they're still doing it, after everything sports. Most of sports is coming back, but hell yeah, that's awesome.
Sweet.
Wow.
And from Gary's top secret Picard review, thoughts on Cobra Kai? Have you seen it? And if so, is it a good follow-up to the movies? And what do you think will happen in season 4 this December? I think it is a good follow-up to the movies. And I saw them all kind of after the fact, after I saw the first couple of seasons. I like it. I like that the two, the blonde guy and LaRusso have teamed up, but they still are maintaining, they haven't seemed to have lost their identities. They haven't changed. I think the characters are really good.
No, I love it. It's fantastic. It shows you how you can kind of include wokeness in it. Some of the characters are woke, but a lot of the characters are not, because that's what reality is.
Because the kid who ended up like breaking his spine or whatever. Like he was kind of he's raised by a single mother, but he's like not some like woke brat, you know, like he's like a real kid who like had to work and like, you know, he's grounded.
They avoid cliches, which I think is really good. I mean, I just think it's so lazy. I see it all the time. It's lazy when it's like, let's gender swap, let's race swap, let's like, we'll make Robin bisexual for why?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. I always think creating an original character is better, but there's just a laziness, and I think that Cobra Kai really is like, this is an example of doing it right. I just wish there was more of it, more shows like it that embrace.
Good point from Scott. Cobra Kai succeeds because it respects its lore.
Absolutely, Scott.
Respect the lore.
It's true. It's respecting the lore, I think, is important. I mean, this is why Star Wars didn't work, you know, and a lot of these reboots, you know, the Star Trek, I don't really watch what they're doing in Star Trek. I usually just watch my friends like Robert Meyer Burnett or Gary talk about it. And then I'm like, oh, I'm glad I didn't waste my time. But this was entertaining.
Yeah. Let somebody else watch it. Oh, Mikey's back with 5. I've seen Kiss 4 times live. Have you seen them live? And do you have a favorite album? I'm stuck between Love Gun and Unmasked. This is now a Kiss cast. I love it. Yeah.
I don't know. I remember seeing them as a kid in Michigan. And I don't know if I have a favorite album. I know that when they had songs on Rock Band, and I remember.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, I was a kid when they were like popular in the 70s.
Wow, you don't look it, girl.
Yeah, well, that's why they call me the Ancient One.
Do they call you that? Yeah. I'm sure you guys all saw this clip from this week. This is the latest fuckery in the woke world. Right, here's a trans person actively trying to fire this poor Sonic manager.
Your entire staff has been calling me sir.
Okay. You want to park?
This guy's like,
why don't you tell
this
me
fucking
what
guy
we can do now?
Here we go.
So I can do the same thing with you.
Okay, but your entire staff has been calling me sir the entire time.
Okay.
What about me looks like a sir right now?
See, this is like that. Okay? That is the heart of this whole thing, is this person's insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, who cares if this guy thinks you look like a dude? Like, it's a fucking journey, man. Some days I don't look like a chick. I don't know. I don't put that on other people.
Okay. Can we please move to the side?
No.
He's like, can you just get out of the way?
What?
No.
Look, I'm sorry, and I apologize for what happened.
Okay, so wait, pause it for a sec. He says sorry.
Yeah.
Apologizes on behalf of the staff. He's the manager. This person blocking other people, right? Making it all about them. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, my understanding is I think I might have seen like a longer that the confusion was over that the credit card didn't match, really.
The name didn't match, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like, oh wait, you have this name, but like you're like, so there was confusion, and then there was an apology. I think this manager just handled everything to the best of their ability, but doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, what else could that person have done in that situation? They were the manager's uncomfortable being filmed because they know how people's lives are destroyed now.
Yeah.
Right. So this manager, I kind of feel like, did the best that they could under the circumstances, and this sort of gotcha stuff is it's kind of sickening. And there's even a weird thing of like, look, I respect like people that want to do whatever you want to do. You want to dress like this. You want to change your name, do whatever, like, tell me what your name is. I will call you by that. Fine. Inform me. Right. I'm happy to do it. Let your freak flag fly, do whatever. But I don't think you should have the world expected to kind of participate in what your sex fantasy is, effectively, right? That I just think it's kind of strange. So to put it on other people, I don't think is fair. If there's a level of understanding of like, okay, but I don't know, I feel bad for this guy, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's possible that the person's back there, you're swiping the card, you're looking at the name, the employee, you're fucking working at Sonic, you're probably waiting for your shift to end. He probably,
right.
It's very possible that the employee didn't even look at this guy, this trans. Oh, now my light is freaking out. Great. My light just like is brightening itself. It's just, and what this person wanted was groveling. They basically wanted this manager to get on his knees. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. What can I do? Please don't take me out of a job. Like, this person was hungry for power, and they still are. It's really disgusting, and I'm gonna keep playing it.
What do you want me? I'm sorry.
What do you want me
What
to
else
do?
can I
You
tell
know?
ma'am? What else can I tell you?
What?
I mean, if you're can we please move to the
If
side?
I'm a what?
Can you please move to the side?
If I'm a what?
I didn't say anything. Okay, don't try to put any words in my mouth. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Look. If them call you a sir, I don't know what they did then.
Because they saw the name on my credit card and they were not being nice people.
Well, I mean, that's all your name on the card card. What do you want? What do you want them to tell you?
Exactly. What do you want us to do?
That has nothing to do with it. There could be someone in the back that they don't see that's paying.
Okay, ma'am.
So why would they intentionally do that?
He should have been like, okay,
Can
sir.
you tell me what your location has done to be trans competent?
Ugh.
Clearly they are not.
Fuck you, man. This is,
Ma'am,
you're
believe
holding
me,
this person hostage.
You know, whatever you're saying or whatever you're trying to do with this,
I'm
I
not
understand.
trying to do anything.
Yes, because you're recording.
If you
No,
weren't trying to do
because-
anything, you wouldn't be recording.
You want to put it on social media?
No,
Go ahead
because
and do it.
I have been faced with discrimination from your staff.
I'm so sorry that you feel discriminated, but I mean, we
He's
have
apologizing
employees
again.
here.
That what?
That are gay. If you're saying that are gay, I mean they're here. They work here.
So
And
I'm not gay.
I don't say that
We're
you
talking about my gender identity,
Okay, well-
not my sexuality.
And now we're in a women's
But like
studies
I said, I
class.
mean,
Like, he's just trying to get through
Do
the
you
day.
understand what I'm saying?
Look, okay. Like I tell you, we don't need to discriminate anybody in here. Okay, I'm so sorry if you feel discriminated.
Yeah, exactly. He apologizes now 3 times.
Right.
What more can this person do? The answer is he gave I keep saying he, but like there's an impossible situation. It's literally there is no scenario in which this person walks away happy.
No,
They just want him to feel like shit.
And also like I feel like having worked at a Burger King, if you've worked a service
Oh wait, sorry. Whoops.
if you've worked in a service job in your life at any point, you have an appreciation. At least I know that I do have an appreciation, whether it's a bartender behind the counter or going to a fast food restaurant. I feel an empathy for people in those jobs because I've had those jobs. And the biggest lesson from having a job like that was I didn't want a job like that. But it was fun.
hard.
I was in high school, I was in early college, and I did jobs like that and worked a lot of shit jobs. And, you know, so that guy did exactly. He asked him several times, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And
the guy wants nothing more than to move forward. And the person in the car is like insisting on not moving forward. And I'm going to show this part too, because it's so funny. The reveal of what this person actually looks like.
Why does it matter?
Oh, it doesn't matter to you. I'm sorry. I mean, but to me, I'm a male. Okay.
Okay.
So, what are you? So I can call you a sir or ma'am. What are you?
What are you?
What would you assume looking at me?
Oh.
What are you?
What would you assume looking at me?
I assume that you're a man.
Again, yeah. He asks this person's opinion.
Okay.
He's a dude. You're not doing. Okay. This is the reveal. You look like a dude playing dress up. And that's the thing is like it comes down to this person's like, yeah, I'm sorry, like you can't get mad at some trans people. All they want to do is like pass, and they get so mad. It's like, yeah, if you wanna be someone who passes, then you need to put more work into passing, whether that's more surgery, whatever it is, like that's why so many trans people get pissed at Blair White because she can pass. She looks fucking great. There's a lot of jealousy and there's a lot of mental illness.
Yeah, I feel for that worker more than anything because how do you, and also he's asking, how would you like me to refer to you? And the person wouldn't answer. It was like a weird, almost like a sort of like
a standoff
domination situation of like, what do I look like? It was like a weird sort of exchange, like a power exchange of like, getting this poor worker to like bow down. And God,
and almost like he wanted him to like lie or something. Like we both know that I look like a dude. Okay. It's almost like the guy in the car just wanted him. And I keep saying, I know I'm like I don't mean to be like whatever, but it's like the person in the car just wanted the like manager like bend to his will. It's like like I know I look like a dude, you know I look like a dude, but we're just gonna pretend that that's not reality, and I'm gonna get you to say what I want you to say.
I think it just had to do with the name on the credit card was a male name.
Yeah.
And so, and they're being respectful. I feel like what else could that what else could that worker have done that would have been better in that situation? I feel like he accommodated as best as he possibly could. And here's the thing is Sonic going to fire that worker?
Probably.
And I feel like they should not. They should not. And the problem is you see with these corporations, and of course this happened with Gina Carano, when they bend, it's like they know they can get you. And you've got to tell some of these groups to sometimes go fuck themselves. I don't understand. Like we've seen situations maybe that could be, that we've seen lots of different situations. And I think you got to know the context. And sometimes there are more clips, right? Like stuff gets cut off to kind of like show things a certain way. There was one other day where just like a woman had crashed into a guy and then tried to blame the guy for
oh yeah, she rear-ended a guy like, oh, you hit me, and you're like, and he's laughing, he's like, that's not how rear-ending works.
That's not how it happened. And then another person had the video that showed her crashing into him, and it's just like, we didn't see the whole video, so you can't make those kinds of assumptions. But what is really annoying is that these companies, their default setting is to give in to the mob, and you cannot. You have to say the facts have come out. This is our policy. We don't discriminate, which I don't believe Sonic is an organization that does discriminate. I don't believe that they are. I felt like he did everything he possibly could. That manager, there was nothing else he could do. He was trying to diffuse the situation and trying to de-escalate, right? Mm-hmm. And the guy's blocking the drive-through, like it's just, you got to call it like it is. And then like that, I mean, whatever. I believe everyone is entitled to have a bad day and it's fine, but like still that is just like, that one does not make you look good.
Yeah. And especially when you deal with a group of people who are like lacking so much in validation, self-esteem, self-worth. And it's like, they're walking around already with, I don't know what's going on with my light. Like they're walking around like with this hole in them, and it's just whatever falls into the hole, whoever falls into the hole is going to be a victim.
Yeah.
No. All right. I
This
want to show
whole-
you my cool, speaking of holes,
really?
these
Okay,
are my
cool.
new masks.
We were talking before, like,
I
so
have every color. Can you see my mouth through it? Yeah, you can.
Okay, it's sheer. So this one is all the bartenders I know, they use these now.
Yeah, in Vegas they all had this one, like all the
but it's like
dealers.
You can hear me perfectly, right? You can hear me. I can breathe perfectly.
It doesn't look sheer.
It doesn't look sheer when it's on my face.
But it's like basically underpants are on your face.
Basically on but the what the bartenders told me is that they can't, like, it's a loud club, bar, whatever. They're trying to communicate and you can't hear behind that mask, right?
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know, like, is there gonna, at some point, workers have to say, look, do we need to be doing this? That's why the recent, just the sort of the optics, as people like to say, of the Emmys and the Met, which were sort of back to back, like, this is what, as if people don't hate celebrities enough already. Oh my God, that's one of my favorite jokes here. That pinned tweet on your page is that.
Oh yeah, normalize ignoring celebrities. I'm surprised it got as much action as it did, because it's just like, it's not even funny. It's just like a thought, because it's like,
right.
But celebrities are what they are because they are, mini politicians. They're mini CEOs. It's like it's the corporate government motives are trickling down, and that's what celebrities have become. They're just like,
I just think I have a friend who was all getting, like, who's a TV person, who posted all this stuff about get the vaccine, what is stopping you, blah, blah, blah. And like, that's sort of like, and then it's like a hateful and derisive comment, not even understanding that people could have circumstances where they don't want to get vaccinated. I have a cousin, a niece who recently got married. She wants to have kids someday. And she is like, there's no long-term, like, I want to have kids. I don't know if I want to get, the jab. So I think those are legitimate concerns, but I almost quote tweeted him and said, normally I wouldn't take advice from TV actors. In this one instance, I will do exactly as you say. Normally, I only go to doctors to get this kind of advice, which is why it's shocking to me is like, why do even certain entertainers feel obligated to give this kind of advice? Like I don't do that. My feed is pretty much, I talk about movie shit and nerd shit. I know something about that, right? A little bit of expertise in that, somewhat, mostly from just like absorbing all this stuff from being a kid. But I wouldn't even think to try to give someone advice on like, you gotta do this.
Yeah.
I just tune it out. I ignore it. And when I see like people get like so self-righteous about it, I'm like, what do you hope to accomplish? I feel like none of this yelling is swaying. If your goal is to persuade someone to get the result that you're talking about, you will not accomplish that. And second, so I think that the real agenda is to show that they're complying with the narrative. That's just what it's all about, is like, I am in compliance with the narrative, Hollywood, just to let you know, I'm hireable. And
I'm on the
with
team. I'm gonna sing the song. I'll do whatever you want. Yeah.
I'm down with doing whatever the fuck you tell me to do because I don't really have any sort of values whatsoever. So when I see someone like, yourself or a Zuby, like, speak out, and you're not even, that's what's weird, is I feel like on one side wants to tell the other side what to do, and the other side doesn't care what the other side does. It's sort of like what the rivalry used to be between San Francisco and LA. San Francisco always hated LA, and people in LA are like, we don't care. I like San Francisco. Although I mean, like, looking at just the fall of that city, I think it's bad or worse than LA.
Poor California.
Yeah, no, I don't know, but I don't know where to move. Like I have seriously looked at like, okay, if I was to move, where would I be?
Yeah.
Florida's too humid.
Florida's out.
Too humid. I mean, I've considered, because I have friends in Atlanta and a convention I go there to every year, and there's people in the film industry there. So I've considered Atlanta, which is also too humid, but I could afford a house there. But it's like, I don't know, but I am actively researching and just looking, like, if I decide to pull the trigger. But I just keep thinking, like, they're not good. This is the thing. Here's what an idiot I am. They're never going to do that. They're not going to do that. It's not going to get to that. It won't get to this level. And every time I say that, it's like I'm predicting the next thing that's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, which is why it's good that some of us are kind of staying in New York and California, and I guess fighting. I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know how much fighting I'm actually doing, but
I don't do it on social media because I feel like that's not a place where I feel like I can have an impact because of morons. Twitter being probably the worst and most horrible place for that. But in terms of just one-on-one conversations and talking to people, that's why I think that, a lot of this stuff is sort of keeping us like where we're not going to social gatherings. That's why now that people have finally gotten together at sporting events, this eruption of let's go Brandon.
Oh yeah. It's really exciting because everyone's pent up, and it's like
pent up and just like, we're done with it anymore. That thing with, and I can't believe that there's a documentary about Fauci. Like it's sort of like, like with Cuomo coming out with that book, like, doing the end zone dance. Horrifying. And so there's this documentary about him, and it's just, but then people were like bringing up like old stories, like from the Village Voice, about when the AIDS crisis was there, and he had like basically $500 million budget and sat on it and sat on certain drugs. You should go read that story.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
From the time they were really critical. And so I'm reading this story from the Village Voice from like, God, I forget when it was. Was it the mid 80s? Any case, I'm reading this story, I'm going like, where is there a story like this now anywhere that is questioning? And all I'm doing is, I don't profess to have any answers. I'm a guy that is into Star Wars and Batman and knows a lot about independent film. Okay. But someone smarter than me should do that. Right. So, and I don't see it. And the fact that I see our media being so polarized, you're like, well, then where is the representation? And I mean real representation and inclusion, which is all sides. That's why, like, if you go to Film Threat, you'll see we have like an interview. There's a documentary that we covered called Uncle Tom, which is about Black conservatives, right? And we always try to match like a writer with like the right writer with the right movie, so they're not predisposed to either hate or dislike the film just because they have different views, right? So
that's smart. Yeah.
But I don't understand, like, why am I so, I'm just a guy that does a website out of my place in Pasadena. Okay. I'm not Deadline. I'm not The Reporter. I'm not Variety. Why don't other people think like this? Why don't they think, hey, we need and then it's just so weird to me that is the time that we're living in. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe people are compromised. Maybe it's just, maybe it comes down to money.
I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like we could talk forever, Chris.
Yeah,
you're the best.
I'm so sorry, but
no, you were great. Thank you so much for coming on. Chat, thank you so much for your questions and your super chats, Chris. Where else can people find you, follow you, and when are these documentaries coming out that you're working on?
Funny thing, as you're asking me that, I was thinking, like, when they did that Facebook, hearing this morning, it almost felt like after ending it, like, and where can we find you on social media? Like, to go around to every person there. But yeah, I'm that Chris Gore is my personal THACHRSGORE, that Chris Gore on everything, and Film Threat if you want to check out my outlet. And I have a movie coming out next year called Attack of the Doc, which is about my experiences on a TV show called Attack of the Show. And there's a documentary about Film Threat that'll be hitting the festival circuit in a while, but it's it's done. We're sitting on it, and it's called Film Threat Sucks. And it's all about Film Threat magazine in the 90s.
Awesome. And a couple more super chats snuck in from Random McCranderson. Chris makes a lot of sense, but he likes Snyder films, so I'm questioning everything about my beliefs because clearly he's wrong about everything.
Hey, that's fine. See, this is what I love. The whole thing, like, a conversation about film and movies is a conversation about anything. It's about life, love, romance, death, politics. Movies are a gateway to talk about any topic. And I don't care if I disagree with you because I'm a fucking adult.
Yeah.
And I can disagree with someone and not dehumanize them.
Yeah.
Right? Have we lost the ability to do that?
We have. Abigor, Chris, Film Threat is wicked. Never retire. Chrissy, when you come to Chicago? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I could go for some deep dish. Maybe I'll get a date on the books.
Do it.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Chris, thank you so much for coming on. I'll have to have you on again. You know a lot about a lot of things, and you're a blast, and you're fun to talk to. And thanks for doing it. Chat, until next time. Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.